Good afternoon. It is the 2nd of July. Here we are, 2 weeks that the players have been off, and two of them are getting married. We're going to touch base on that subject here shortly. Here's your intro.
Network broadcast. You can find us on Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, Facebook, and of course YouTube. Get all your NFL news here first.
Here locally in the community. Make sure y'all go check out Kneecap Body by Jeremy Jones.
Good afternoon once again. Glad to be here talking sports and Lions football with you. Jared Goff got married 2 weekends ago, and this past weekend, Malcolm Rodriguez, also known as Rodrigo, got married. So, by my calculations, that means we might have two Lions cubs born shortly after the Super Bowl's over. What do you guys think about that? I mean, think about it. We could end up having two Lions kids born after the Super Bowl. Am I putting the Lions in the Super Bowl? I can't do that yet. Can they win it? Get there? Absolutely. Will they? That's another story. I think they should. If everything goes as good as it's been shown lately, absolutely they should. And that's pretty much the extent of Lions news. If you actually read the thing about the Lions being charged $449 million because of the lawsuit, if you actually read the whole thing, number one, it's going to get dragged out because more than likely they're going to appeal. They have 90 days to appeal it, so they still have another 7 weeks. Uh, Trace said, "Hey, Trace, I met Trace through watching Rocked On Sports or Rocked On Lions or whatever it is with Will Rock and Eric in the mornings. He's one of the moderators for the chat there. So new Lions cubs born shortly after the Super Bowl. But that whole lawsuit thing, I wanted to get into detail of it because if you actually read the whole article, after it talks about it could be the balloon payment to equal that 449.6 or point one million, whatever the god awful number is. Thing at the bottom, because the NFL has been involved with the class action lawsuit like this before, probably won't happen because they're exempt from that monopoly rule from being put in place by a judge. It's a RICO slash Monopoly Act type thing. So at most, any team can be charged as $146.7 million. And they can stretch that out because that's if it's all paid out by then. So I really think it's a very minor thing. And plus, with the way the NFL money has been going up every year, will it be a problem 4 or 5 years down the road when the bill comes due? Probably not. So I just wanted to give you a shout out, Trace, on where I met you and everything. And other than that, I'm trying to remember the name of that sports writer, Graham. Thank you, Trace. Yeah, I just like to talk about facts of stuff and get into the facts of it, not just delve into the rumor side of things. Because the rumor side of things gets a lot of people in trouble. They make bold claims that never happen. But Grandma Gordon wrote that the Lions might have the best offense in the NFL this year, and the way it's built. And I absolutely agree because a couple of the people they didn't even mention, they didn't really mention Jamison Williams. They mentioned the potential of Jamison Williams, but not that it would have a major factor. They mentioned the fact that we had such a prolific run game. They mentioned Amon Ra. They mentioned Laporte. They mentioned Goff. They mentioned the O line. That's all great. But we have to remember Raymond was almost as clutch as Josh Reynolds was, which is why he's still on the team. It would have cost him more money to get rid of him. Reynolds was at the end of his contract. And I think the way he answered about the drop passes media, the way he giggled and walked off the stage after what he said, I think that left a bad taste in the mouth with the coaching staff and the front office. Because if you have grit and you are a competitive person, you're going to be mad at yourself for making the mistake of making those key drops on those fourth downs. He literally replied, "Shit happens," giggled, and walked off the stage. That's not a good look, and it's not a competitive look, and it's not a competitive way to answer. Whether it's anxiety, a nervous tick, whatever, it still is not a good look to your coaches and front office, nor to your teammates. So I think that's the main reason why Josh Reynolds did not get re-signed here. When I say I'm part of the do crew, this is the do I'm talking about. Trace had a very bad taste that. Yeah, I mean, that's the equivalent of a president waking up trying to hit the snooze button on the alarm clock and accidentally opens the nuclear football and hits the button. That's the equivalent of it. Oops. Oops just called World War III. Yeah, that's all it is. So either a night or two ago, Zach Bryan was doing a concert. Since there isn't a lot of sports news out there, I mean, I could delve into every single rumor and everything else that's out there, but I there's so many people that do that. And I understand that's an easier and quicker way to grow than some of these other podcasters do. That's why I've had slow, steady growth. That's why I retain my fans, is because I don't entertain the rumor mill. I give facts and reasons why that won't happen. Just like somebody said we should sign a veteran quarterback right now, and I don't think that's going to happen either. And I'll tell you why. I said, number one, you haven't seen Hendon Hooker even play a snap in preseason, let alone an NFL snap in a meaningful game. Number two, they've already said that's what they're developing Hendon Hooker for at this moment, is to be one of the best backups in the NFL. So wouldn't they want to give him a chance to do that? Oh, again, the opinions reflected of Jeremy Ballrig Jr. has nothing to do with this podcast. Yes, any fan in their right mind would love to have CD Lamb instead of Antoine Green, but not at the expense of re-signing the core players that have already been here and signing them now when he'd have to uh, relearn an entire playbook. Granted, wide receiver is easier to transition than cornerback, and it might not take as long. But we've all seen where guys that our pros coming from other teams mid-season or late off-season haven't done well in that first season with the team, which is why DPJ got another shot. He showed improvement by the end of the year without even having an off-season workout with the team. And the fact that DPJ does have a career 82% contested catch rate, that might have something to do with it, seeing as we don't have very many contested catch guys on the roster other than Amon Ra and occasionally Sam Laporta. We don't have a second guy out there to be the red zone guy. Somebody taller than 6'2". We don't have a tall guy on the roster, really. Will Vogel, good afternoon, sir. How are you? If the Dallas Cowboys accepted that trade, I'd do it, but I'd want CeeDee Lamb on what he's making this year and not extend him. And then possibly use him to go undefeated till that point and then trade him after week 8 and get a haul if I was going to entertain this at all. But offering Dallas Antoine Green will not be enough to get him. Nice. I, on the other hand, just woke up from a little mini nap after I ate breakfast, so I'm happy to be here. But how many times has us Lions fans said if we'd have had the 20th ranked passing defense or better last season, how many games more would we have won? I think we'd have won 3 more games, not including the playoffs. Other than that, it is an Ask the Host day. So if you have a question about the roster or an opinion about the Lions that you want to discuss, go ahead and put it in the chat because that's what I do. Yeah, at least 3. I don't think we'd have beat the Rams, and I honestly don't think we'd have beat Chicago in Chicago. And I'll tell you why. It was cold. Goff never performs well outside in the cold. He probably still would have thrown those picks. So, and we would have gotten that first seed for the playoffs, which is a totally different animal. Absolutely. Trace, you're right. You're absolutely right. But at the same time, even though we've improved and we improved the weakest room by a lot compared to what we had last year, even with the 2 just being on paper better because they'd never played it down in the NFL in Ennis Rakestraw and Terrion Arnold. The guys that we have instead of, and the fact that right now Emmanuel Mosley is probably CB5 on this roster, the way it's constructed, unless he absolutely balls out in the preseason games. Who was a top 25 corner 2 seasons ago. Blue and silver, how many passing yards and touchdowns for Goff? I think it's going to be close to the 30 mark again. And I think right about 4,500 because we are a very run heavy team. So I think it's going to be the same. It's just the dispersion of where it goes may be different because if Jameson Williams continues his progression and the rapport he's building with Goff, he's going to get a little bit more, which means Laporta and Amon Ra may get a little bit less. If that makes sense on how I'm wording it. Any chance that Arnold gets more picks than Branch, you think? Branch got what, 2 picks last year? He could. He's averaged 4. Sorry about that, everybody, but the internet just failed, so I had to connect to my hotspot. I was T-Mobiling through Xfinity. Glad I'm back though. Sorry about that, but we were talking about Mosley. Sorry about the internet technical difficulties. But at the same time, at least I made it back. I apologize for that inconvenience. Is everybody still here? Okay. So about Mosley, everybody forgets that 2 seasons ago, prior to him injuring the first ACL, it he actually was a top 25 corner that beginning of the season and the season before. So can he get back to that potential? I hope so, but I doubt it because with an ACL tear that's been repaired in each knee, he may be struggling to get back to that form. But at the same time, it's nice depth, a rotation of 5 guys that could probably start on about 6 rosters in the NFL. Isn't that a good problem to have? Dwayne King, good to see you. Pat in blue and silver. It is what it is. T-Mobiling. Glad I was able to connect through my phone though. If I didn't have hotspot, I'd have been like, I got an issue, boys. Let's go Detroit Lions, one pride. Yes, our rotational depth is great. And let's talk about the rotational depth of the defensive end room from front to back. And I want to get into this a little more because I think somebody may end up a starter that everybody says doesn't have a shot. But at the same time, let's go start at the top. You got Aiden Hutchinson, Marcus Davenport. Then you got Betts, Pascal, Kaminsky, Levi Onwuzurike, who's played both inside and out. You've got Wingo, who played inside and out in college. And then you got James Houston. And the only reason why I'm putting him last is because all he is a pass rusher. He does not play the run well. And as we found out in the game where they used him in coverage when he was back healthy after the injury in preseason, well, he got injured covering Noah Fant, and then he decided to say, I'm okay, and go back out on the field on special teams. And that's when he actually broke his ankle. The little itty bitty bones that hold your ankle together is what he actually broke. It wasn't a sprain, it wasn't a Achilles tear, it was a broken bone. Oh, I'm just talking about defensive ends. Broderick Martin is a defensive tackle strictly with his size and his shape and what he is. So, but you got Kamin- Kaminsky, Winko, Onwuzurike, and Pascal that can play both defensive tackle and defensive end. John Kaminsky last year, everybody complained about his production going on, but he was only on the field when Aiden Hutchinson came off. And seeing how Aiden Hutchinson played 91% of the defensive snaps, he didn't get much time out there, but he did make the most out of what he did when he was in. And that's what I've been trying to educate people on. They're like, wow, his stats really dropped off. Yeah, he didn't have to be the starter anymore. And that's the biggest difference. He goes, Trey says, I'm ahead of myself. That's okay. Um, I'll tell you what, if Houston still hasn't taken a snap by week 2 of training camp and he doesn't have an elite preseason getting it done when he is healthy, I think he might be the guy that goes back to the practice squad like his rookie year when he was injured. Remember that? Where he went protected to the practice squad week 1 and week 2, and then all of a sudden you heard he was on the pup list, physically unable to play list, and no one knew why. And then we found out he had a lingering injury from Jackson State that he was dealing with. So I think it might be something like that again. Um, the guys that are odd men out, if Levi Onwuzurike doesn't continue to have a great training camp in preseason, I think Onwuzurike may be on the way out. Pascal, he's going into year 3, so he's probably not going anywhere. I think as much as I hate to say it, it'd be probably Comiskey. If everybody else works out, then Comiskey's the one that gets cut. It's the only one that makes sense to me because Pascal's on a rookie contract. Unfortunately, we don't. We may run that as an option, but our base is the 4-2 because AG switched from 3-4 under to 4-2 after we drafted Hutch, who was a 3-4 edge guy at Michigan in the Mike McDaniel's defense. Yeah, Trace, you're absolutely right. It is a prove it year for a couple of the defensive ends. Now, I watched some film of the 7-on-7s that was done and a couple of the offensive line, defensive line battle drills that they do, even though they weren't in pads. And I agree with all 5 of the beat writers that I follow the most who said Matthew Betts has that elite bend. It's even better. It frees up about 2 million. That's all, Braylon. It doesn't free up much because he doesn't make that much. He's only making 3.9 with like a 1.7 million dead cap. So it'll clear up like 2.2. It'll clear up a little bit if Levi gets cut, or should I say 335. You never know. But at the same time, where was I at? I was talking about Betts. Elite bend. They say it's even better than James Houston. But what he does have that's better than everybody else is change of direction skill. And it shows. And that shows whether you're in pads or not. You can either change directions or you can't. Because that has to do with hip fluidity and how you place your feet and how you use your feet and how you turn your body at the right time. Um, he was consistently stopping runs behind the line. He was consistently getting pressure past people. Um, I think it's more than a 55% chance that we end up with Betts as our starter opposite Aiden Hutchinson, based off of everything I've read in the day of film that I saw. Because Davenport, after Minnesota warned the Lions, a beat writer from Minnesota warned the Lions that was in the locker rooms all the time. One of their main guys that writes for the Minneapolis newspaper there, he wrote a warning and he goes, he doesn't know if Marcus Davenport still has the heart to be an every down NFL football player because they said that by week 9 he was cleared to play and wouldn't come back to the facility. He said, "No, I don't feel right." Which makes it sound like to me he just didn't want to play for him, which Minnesota was going nowhere. So having him as in a vet leadership role and using him as somebody with fresh legs when Betts needs to come off the field and putting him in that rotation with Pascal and Kaminsky and Davenport, I think it makes a lot more sense to do that because in all actuality, if you look at Marcus Davenport's last 4 years, which 5 years ago was the last time he played a complete season, he's Ziggy Ansah 2.0. Great when he's on the field, gets a lot of pressure, gets sacks, doesn't play the run as good as as everybody thinks. Betts win in the CFL, and I know everybody says, "Well, that's not the NFL." Well, it's a professional league. He was paid to play. He played for the Elkton Elks, which was a trash team the year before. You can say that, but some guys hide that crap. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying Marcus Davenport has been injury riddled 4 straight seasons. But in the what? He's played 11 games with 22 sacks. Yep, and then there's Mitchell Agood. He'll probably be that Sam guy. And I think that's more where James Houston should be used if he's healthy and able to play. I think that he should be used in that situation also. In that 4-2-5, occasionally you use, instead of a nickel corner or a safety in the box, you use a linebacker to be the Sam guy, the strong side linebacker as a blitzer. And Mitchell Agood and James Houston has that body frame to fill that role and would be able to do it great. And then you could still keep your core 4 guys that are your starters on the line and throw them in those long 3rd and long passing situations and gives you an extra guy. And don't forget, you can flip the field and turn them into a will. I don't understand why Brad signed Davenport here in this now because the potential. Here's the thing: we sign guys to save money because they can fill a role. Mahogany, great. I'm pretty certain he's making the 53 man as the backup to Zietler because he is a right guard strictly, just like Zietler's strictly a right guard. But Mahogany is because he physically is made as strictly a right guard. Hello, good afternoon, Matt Henry. How are you, sir? I know it's 11:30 there in Central Time, but it's 12:30 in the afternoon here. Had a little T-Mobiling issue where the internet dropped out, but I'm good now. Hooked up to my hotspot. And that's why I bought a hotspot in case of emergency. If I'm ever live on the show and power goes out or whatever, I can actually keep going. I'm just glad I got back in here because I know everybody was like, "Oh wow, he just there's no sound." No, it was an internet failure. Got a friend in trouble, and I'm one of those guys. I always respond when it's important. Yeah, Mahogany so far has been great. I have heard nothing other than they can't tell the difference between Mahogany being on the field and last year when it was Jonah Jackson that wore the same number. That's very high praise considering Jackson was a Pro Bowler and an All Pro the year before last. And at the same time, hallelujah, Pride Month is over. Did y'all hear that? Pride Month is over. Yes, I did hear about that. And there's a joke going. There's a couple of those guys that do the fake. Did you? Yes, I did want Mason McCormick before the draft. You heard me talk about him. I think he's going to be a starter. I I don't think Tua deserves as much as they're talking because he needs to stay healthy as another season before I'd be willing to give him anything north of 50 million if I was a GM. He's had 2 injury riddled seasons and now a full season again. That's just me. Yes, hallelujah. I think it's funny. The last week of Pride, we didn't have anything going on because the Hot Tua stuff came out and it ended Pride Month real quick. By the way, coming soon to stores from you near you, the newest figurine on the market by Kenner Entertainment. It's Hot Tua with realistic spit on that thing action. Yes, Pat Roswell, you're absolutely right. I think this is James Mitchell's last shot. He's in year 3 of his rookie year. I think he's going to end up on the practice squad like the year before. Um, Blue and Silver says, "Watch out for Aeneas Smith, rookie slot receiver for the Eagles. Dude reminds me of Golden Tate." Yes, I did say hot Tua. Yes, Brent DeWitt. There we go. The best answer yet. Pride Month is never over. If you're part of the one Pride, go Lions. Yes, sir. Not the pride I was talking about, but that's great. No, it was funny. Zach Bryan did a concert in Tennessee either last night or the night before, and lo and behold, after 6 months later, she was fired from her job as a kindergartner teacher for something she said on social media, which she didn't have at the time because she was interviewed by somebody else, and it went viral overnight. She was fired as a kindergarten teacher after that because she had a drunken night where she said a bunch of stupid stuff because she just says what comes to her mind. But at the same time, I think it's awesome because the next day she was contacted by a local hat company that makes hats. She's now making 65,000 a month off of her commission from hat sales that say Hawk Tua. That's pretty crazy. Somebody asked me what would I do if that was my daughter. I said, number one, she's an adult. She can do whatever she wants. Number two, I help make her. I want my cut. Just saying. Yeah, she was pulled up on stage during the Zach Bryan concert 2 days ago. Now, I will admit she does need to keep her day job, whatever it is, and I think it's selling hats now because her voice wasn't all that great. But at the same time, I bet she was nervous as hell being up in front of that many people. So, yes, she's one of the ones where I would say one or two things to her face to face. Number one, don't quit your day job. Or number two, what did you do with that money? And when they say what money, that money for singing lessons, you're awful. But But I think that was cool of Zach Bryan to bring her on stage. He actually recognized her because she was wearing those same white cowboy boots that she wore in the video that night. Yeah, that girl was a kindergarten teacher at a local elementary school in Tennessee. She went out drinking on a Saturday night with one of her other teacher friends. Both of them were fired over that off of social media. And Braylon, all I got to say is there was teachers like that when I was in school, but mostly they were substitutes. And no, it's not fake news. They just did an interview with her on one of the Nashville TV stations. Not fake news. Man, time flies when we're talking about it. Yeah, I said Hawk Tua. I talked about her, but you know what? She is a superhero. Maybe now people will look at Caitlin Clark differently too. Just saying. I'm not saying she's beautiful or anything like that. And I'm not even calling the Hawk Tua girl beautiful. But she's two things that's been hated ever since she came into the WNBA. And I don't want to get into it. That's a political debate that no one wants to hear me talk about. Yes, 10% creation fee. 100%. She can't make that content if I didn't make her, right? How many days before training camp? 24, I believe. It is July 2nd, right? 24 days. 3 weeks and 3 days. I heard it was the 26th. I know the players report on the 19th, the week before, but the camp doesn't actually start till the 26th, if I remember right. 37 days. Yes. And let's see, we were Dan Skipper away from starting day not too long ago. So I believe now we are at 67. Who's 67 on the roster? Let's look that up. Wow. That's interesting. Guess what? 67 has never been used by any Lions player in modern history. That's interesting. Yes, the off season is dragging because there's less news because less people are screwing up. You've only had Rasheed Rice, Isaiah Buggs, and Cam Sutton. AB having to file bankruptcy, but we're not unused to football players going bankrupt after they're out of the NFL a couple of years. That's something new. Uh, the NFL lawsuit that they just went through, that was new, but yet the same thing they went through 5 years ago with the whole Madden thing. I just think in this day and age, with everything being out there, we get it so fast now. It used to be you had to wait for the NFL report on Mondays, period, whether it was after a game or for the week's events. And then everybody had something to talk about for 3 or 4 days because all the news came at once. Now it's out as soon as it happens. It happens, you talk about it the next day or the same day. News being delivered this fast is good and bad at the same time because now you're getting more opinionated news than actual factual news. Nobody's actually doing research about it. They're just reporting it and it's kind of off and they give their opinions on it when they might not know enough to formulate an educated opinion. The last time that somebody wore 67 on this roster was in 2020 in the Patricia era with Matt Nelson. Prior to that was Wally Pesuit, Pesuit, in 1979, and Merv Pregelman in 1947. How easy is that? Only 3 players have wore that number, and one of them's not on the roster this year. We didn't resign Matt Nelson. Yeah, I don't think Lawrence deserved that contract either. His stats, if you put them side by side with Daniel Jones and just covered up the games played, they're almost identical. As a matter of fact, Trevor Lawrence has 1 less completion percentage, 2 less touchdowns, and 1 less interception. He also has 1 less in passer, or 2 less in passer rating, 1 less in QBR. So while everybody complains about the 40 per year average that Daniel Jones got, 55 per year average for Trevor Lawrence is quite high. And let's even go further than that, because I'm going to say something that'll make Bengals fans mad. Burrow's 55 average per year when he's missed more games in the NFL than Tua Tagovailoa is an overpay, regardless of where he's gotten the team on his rookie contract. So I'm wondering when a couple things are going to happen, and mostly I think when it comes to a veteran quarterback signing, because what's out there, you know what it is. And I don't think it's going to be better for the roster bringing somebody in now that has to learn a playbook and everything all over again. Absolutely. Brent, you're absolutely right. Goff earned it and Lawrence did not. The market value is causing a lot of overpaying for QBs. You're absolutely right. It started with Kyler Murray. Everybody wants to blame the Deshaun Watson contract. It goes back further. It was the Kyler Murray contract that started all of this. That Kyler Murray, am I going to training camp? If it falls on a day off, I'm going. So if I've got to skip doing a podcast on Monday to go to training camp, yes, I'm going. $100. And don't forget, tomorrow night, right here, 9 p.m. on Wednesday, it is the AFC and NFC North review. Yoli! It's our top huddle sports network fan. How you doing? I think Trevor shouldn't have made more than Pat Mahomes. And yet, at the same time, where Goff earned his extension, I don't think it should have been more than Mahomes either. But that's not my decision to make. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Mahomes restructured his contract. Detroit fan man, I love it. Go dirty to the training camp. Wear a wire. Stream the podcast remotely undercover. Have Von Doom in the booth for the video of other end of the conversation. If he can't, I'll fill in. Every time Kyler takes the field, I get flashbacks from the Mighty Mouse cartoon. Oh, that's great. Every time Kyler takes the field and he's walking next to an offensive lineman, I hear the song of the Lollipopkins from The Wizard of Oz. We represent the Lollipopkins. So, do we call the release of Call of Duty? If I've heard some Cardinal fans, they said they think Kyler Murray is more like Superman because of the hits he takes and still gets up. I said, so you call the Call of Duty release is kryptonite? Goff's contract looking pretty good right now. Trevor is overpaid. Yeah, I understand that. I'm just saying I feel like every quarterback who's paid more than Pat Mahomes is overpaid after his restructure, is my rephrasing of that. Kyler will be injured by what, week 7? If not, he'll disappear whether he's on the field or not after August 25th when the new Call of Duty comes out. T-Bone Locks, go Lions! All right, Pat, thank you for being here. Before you go, give us an FTP because that's our favorite thing to do here. You know that's one of my favorite things. Is the fakest sponsor I got is the best sponsor I got. It's FTP. Put it in the chat. In all honesty, do we really hate anyone? Any rival fan base, any rival team? I hate when we play them, but I really don't hate any of the people. I'm friends with a lot of them. They are all actually, with the exception of about 4, pretty decent guys. And I think I can say that for every fan base I've ever come in contact with. There's always about 4. Yes, T-Bone looks. Davey, good to see you, brother. But and truthfully, I go on podcast, Packers fans podcast, Bears fan podcast. I've gone on Vikings fans podcast. I've been on a Dallas. I've been on a St. Louis Cardinals podcast recently. Here we go. I got a. How many people out there are Tigers fans too? Because I got a trade that might actually work because it would actually swap out the salaries even. Trade Torque and Baez for Nolan Arenado with the Cardinals. I think Nolan Arenado wants out. He's not playing to the same potential he was over the past 3 seasons. I think Torkelson would do good with the change of scenery and getting rid of Baez. Fantastic. Think about it. After Brady won a Super Bowl with the Bucks, he could have easily been a 65 or $70 million quarterback, but he took discounts. Well, he was able to afford to. He was married to a supermodel that made 500 million a year. T-Bone Loke says, I definitely sports hate the Packers, but it's not personal. Yes, that's where I'm at. I'm talking about the fans. And Braylon Dennis said, my dad said the same thing about Nolan. Wouldn't that be a good trade? Give Baez and Torque and get Nolan Arenado straight up. The The salaries are about the same, and Nolan just looks like he doesn't want to play there anymore. I think that would be a great trade. If it works, it's fantastic. If it doesn't, he's a free agent next year, and we don't have to pay Baez 26 million a year anymore. Hallelujah! I think Nolan Arenado got tired of playing for a team that's middling and can't get past the first round of the playoffs anymore because they don't have the same pitching rotation or coaching. And I think in another uniform, he might actually show out and earn a contract. Goldschmidt's washed though. His numbers have been declining the past 4 years in a row. Um, I'd almost take a prospect out of their farm teams. Any prospect. It doesn't even have to be a top. Just anybody as the second player. That's the reason why the Yankees didn't retain Paul Goldschmidt. His numbers were declining each year, and it's kept happening the past 3 years he's been out of there. If Goldschmidt was 28, I'd say yes, but he's pushing 35. Arenado, on the other hand, is still in the middle of his prime. I think he's like 27, 28 years old, just like Baez. It would be a good time to get him and get him out of that funky situation. But Baez has always been a free singer with the plate discipline of Stevie Wonder his entire career. The one year he hit 25 bombs for the Cubs, he still had 200 strikeouts that season. But if you're hitting 25 home runs and getting them 100 RBIs, you can overlook that many strikeouts. And don't forget, we have our other sponsor, the one that actually pays me. It's Brandon Service right at the corner of Grand Traverse and South Atherton Road, 602 West Atherton Road in sunny Flint, Michigan. You know, the town where the tires are great and the water's shit. Used tires starting at $40. Sets of used tires start at 180 and up. If you need a quote for new tires, please call 810-233-8230. Ask for George Red or myself, Jeremy, also known as Smoking Jeremy B here, and we will get that quote for you. Mention the ad and get $10 off your set of tires. Yes, my hour is almost up and it's almost time to get ready to go to work, which means I'm shedding this thing because I'm not ruining a nice sweatshirt. Tigers players that can stay: Green, Green, Ibanez, Perez, Verling, Jake Rogers, and Urshela. I even like Carson Kelly. Carson Kelly is a good backup. He's just inconsistent because it's his first year up with us. He's still getting the jitters out, I think. Uh, Pitcher wise, do you trade Scrubble for a haul like what they're offering from Baltimore, or do you keep him and trade Flaherty away? I'm leaning towards getting rid of Flaherty, but I know we'd get a haul for Scrubble from Baltimore. That's where the best deal is because they've actually got the second best farm system in the league. The first best farm system is either the Rays or Braves, and they're considered second best. And it depends on the year. One year it'll be the Braves, the next year it'll be the Rays. They always stay in the top three. With that being said, thank you for watching. Tune in tomorrow. I will come up with some other crazy stuff to talk about because, oh, that's awesome. I actually work there from 2 to 7 p.m., Tuesday through Saturday, so if you ever need anything, come see me. Yes, get some Baltimore players. I hear you. Um, but thank you everybody for tuning in. Have a great day. Try every day to be a better person than you were the day before. It's the only way to make the world a better place. We need to start promoting more love, peace, and harmony. Take care, everybody, and we will catch you tomorrow at noon. We just might.
Sports Network broadcast. You can find us on Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, Facebook, and of course YouTube. Get all your NFL news here first.